All right, guys. So it looks like Trump, Elon, along with Doge, have effectively shut down the USAID department. Now, this comes just on the heels of the 90-day freeze on foreign aid that Trump ordered. And, it only took them a few days to shut down the USAID department. So they found they were looking for pretty fast. Now, it is not entirely shut down. Of course, it still needs to fund some countries to help fight against disease and starvation and poverty and all those kinds of things. So it's not totally shut down. It is being merged with the State Department, where Marco Rubio is heading up that department. So it looks like he is eyeing for its reorganization instead of its complete shutdown. But anyway, let's take a look at what Caroline Levitt had to say about USAID and what they were spending your tax dollars on. Play the clip.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Wow, so that's where your tax dollars are going, a lot of your tax dollars. That's a lot of money. That's not going to things that have anything to do with U.S. foreign policy. I believe another one of the things was something to do with $100 million worth of condoms or $50 million worth of condoms to Palestine. That's extremely weird. Why are we funding condoms to Palestine? It reminded me why we need to do that, why we need to send our money all over the world and help every other country except for our own. Why do we need to do that again? Now, to just get back to the roots of the USAID department, it was first established in 1961 by JFK, believe it or not. It was first organized to counter the Soviet Russian influence around the world, while also helping fight disease and hunger and things like that, because it is called USAID, but I mean, people read it as USAID, but that's not really what it is. It's not aid. It's really, people are floating around the idea that it's really just a CIA front. And to me, it looks like that, but we're going to talk about that later. Let's go ahead and see what Trump and Elon had to say about this organization. Play the clip.
Elon Musk to have access to the payment systems at Treasury.
Well, he's got access only to letting people go that he thinks are no good if we agree with him, and it's only if we agree with him. He's a very talented guy from the standpoint of management and costs, and we put him in charge of seeing what he can do with certain groups and certain numbers. Some of the numbers are horrible, what he's found. Think of it, $100 million on condoms to Hamas. And many other things that are frankly even more ridiculous. And they're finding tremendous waste, really waste, more than anything else, I think you could say. Probably fraud and abuse could be added to it, the more standard waste, fraud, and abuse. But they're finding tremendous amounts of really bad things, bad spending. You've been writing about some of it, frankly, and some of the things that they've been doing is just terrible. Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval. And we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. But he reports in, and it's something that he feels very strongly about, and I'm impressed because he's running, obviously, a big company. It has nothing to do, if there's a conflict, that we won't let him get near it. But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink it as well as anybody else, if not better. Where we think there's a conflict or there's a problem, we won't let him go near it. But he has some very good ideas, and we have a lot of very other talented people also. We're bringing in the most talented people.
USAID is a bowl of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing. That is why it's got to go. You know, it's beyond repair. None of this could be done without the full support of the president. Actually checked with him a few times. Said, are you sure? I'm like, yes. So we're shutting it down.
Well, sources confirming to Fox that USAID headquarters are in fact closed today, coming as President Trump and, as you heard, Elon Musk agreed the Agency for International Development needs to be shut down after failing to be transparent with their budget of billions. With us now, the former head of global health at USAID under President Biden, Atul Gawande. Thank you so much for being here. I want to put up your op-ed that you wrote in the New Yorker, the headline, "Beyond the Chaotic Attempt to Freeze Federal Assistance, the Potential for Devastation," you write, "is made plain by another order concerning the crucial work of USAID." You heard the criticism there about the budget and the spending. What's the response?
So this dude is basically a former bureaucrat who worked inside of the USAID. So guess what he's going to say? I'm assuming he's going to try to stick up for USAID.
What's happening right now is dangerous for the United States and humanity. These are people shutting down an agency and having no clue the work that is being done. I'm a surgeon. I led global health at USAID, and I can tell you, these are programs touching hundreds of millions of people around the world on a budget that's half the budget of the hospital where I do surgery. Let me give you some critical examples. Number one, in the last 4 years, USAID responded in containing 21 serious outbreaks of deadly diseases at risk of coming to the United States. There is an Ebola outbreak right now in Uganda that is killing people, and USAID, all activities have been shut down. That work is critical and is not even happening. There is an HIV. 20 million people, of whom 6.5 million are children with HIV, where the global program that USAID leads with other parts of the U.S. government has been shut down. Those are people whose medicines are required for them to stay alive. I can go on down the list: eradication of malaria and polio and so on. This is dangerous. It is bad for American security.
It's funny because he completely sidesteps the whole other part of the USAID, which is the money that they use to push America's foreign policy agenda on certain countries. And there's an interview with Mike Benz where he's talking about how they use USAID to do those things.
In 2021, the U.S. Special Forces Perspective, under Mark Milley, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs, put out an entire instruction manual for how the U.S. military can work with the State Department and our intelligence services to organize a rent-a-riot, to destabilize a country in order to bring them to the negotiating table. They gave an example of a hypothetical West African country where a member of U.S. Special Forces is on a separate mission, driving down a highway, and notices a billboard for Chinese infrastructure investment into a new port in this Western African country. The unit takes note of this billboard on a highway in Western Africa with Chinese symbols on it. They do their own investigation and figure out that this is part of a real estate development project from Chinese investors, that as part of that development project will have the construction of a Chinese naval port in this West African country, where in theory China would then be able to project naval influence into the Atlantic Ocean. What the Special Forces Guide calls for is coordination with the State Department, coordination with our intelligence services, coordination with our psychological operations unit to take all of our assets in that West African region. And in that case, what they did is they planned to work with the unions. What they did is they embarked in a social media influence campaign. They would activate all their media assets, all of their civil society institutional assets, and all of their union assets to have the union labor pool in that West African country. Well, actually, there was one thing that happened first, is they first then went, in this hypothetical, the State Department sent a delegation to persuade the West African country to forbid the development license to the Chinese developer. And the head of that West African government said no. Because something was happening in the hypothetical in the next 30 days, there was a time sensitivity to generate an instability event to stop this using time-sensitive emergency. And so the way they generated that was they worked with their union contacts in the region and the media contacts in the region and created this whole social media campaign to inflame the sentiments of the West African labor union workforce who were working for Chinese companies at the time. Because in this hypothetical, the Chinese mining firms and Chinese industry, was employing a lot of these Africans. And it was to destabilize the country, to bring the mines, to bring the factories, to bring all of the Chinese production in the region to a halt, and to put all these Africans out of jobs, and to bring the African government effectively to a standstill. At the same time, in their own Special Forces manual, it called for support from USAID to provide these same striking miners alternative jobs, so that while they were striking from the Chinese labor companies, they were still getting paid by U.S. taxpayers. So they were financially bribed effectively to boycott Chinese industry and to devastate their own country's government, create this crisis, and then use the State Department delegation to go back to the negotiating table with the West African government and promised to end the destabilization if the development was halted. And in that hypothetical, the West African government then rejects the license for the real estate development of China, and that is declared as an unalloyed success by the U.S. Special Forces and their partner network in the State Department and Intelligence. And this is the way of our diplomacy in 2021. And this is all publicly available if you look at the Special Forces prospectus. And when this goes live, I'll post this on my X account at Mike Ben Cyber, so that you can don't take my word for it.
So yeah, like I said before, there you go. U.S. aid isn't really necessarily aid. It's also used to push foreign policy agendas from the United States or organizations like the CIA, Front for the CIA. Let's go on to see what Marco Rubio had to say about the whole debacle. Roll the clip.
Well, look, I mean, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, that will be aligned with the national interest of the United States. And USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that there's somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars. And so I'm very troubled by these reports that they've been unwilling to cooperate with people who are asking simple questions about what does this program do, who gets the money, who are our contractors, who's funded, and that sort of level of insubordination makes it impossible to conduct a sort of mature and serious review that I think foreign aid writ large should have.
All right, so it looks like we're going to get a lot more transparency out of this organization, which was the big problem in the first place, was that they weren't very transparent during the auditing of their budget. Now, it's funny because you have these Democrats that are out here protesting in front of the building, and it's Ilhan Omar and the Representative Raskin from Maryland and a few other people who I do not know. But I think it's funny that Ilhan Omar is out there protesting for this. It's kind of funny that Ilhan Omar is out here protesting in front of the USAID building.
Have the ability to make an impact on where our nation is headed, not only here in the United States, but even in our nation back home.
It is really, really a sad day in America.
She's talking about Somalia. Strange, very strange that she's out here protesting. I don't know what it is, but it's strange. I feel like I remember her talking about, I don't know, helping her country through using taxpayer dollars, I guess, is what she was implying. It's kind of weird. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's weird.
We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made. What Trump and Elon and all of their cronies are trying to do is take away the constitutional power of Congress. I am exceptionally upset about USAID. I lived in a refugee camp for 4 years as a child surviving civil war. It is the essential programs that USAID provided that kept my family and I fed and safe. It is the resources that so many people around the world rely on. And it is our soft power. Oftentimes, people interact with our country through the military. That does not create love for us, and it certainly does not keep us safe. When the world...
As you probably saw, Elon Musk and his crew put a gag order on AID employees. They disconnected them from email, which is putting lives at risk around the world. So we are here to enter the building, and so we can hear firsthand from whoever is here at AID, or at least witness firsthand what is happening with this Elon Musk attempted takeover, which will not stand. We will prevail. Let's go.
Elon Musk, you didn't create USAID. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him. Elon Musk, you may have illegally seized power over the financial payment systems of the United States Department of Treasury, but you don't control the money of the American people. The United States Congress does that under Article 1 of the Constitution. And just like the president, who is elected to something, cannot impound the money of the people, we don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk. And that's going to become real clear.
The senator from Connecticut, Senator Chris Murphy.
Thanks, man. So, Elon Musk has been floating all sorts of awful, terrible conspiracy theories about what happens at USAID. Let's make it very clear that every single day, America is safer because of what happens at USAID. USAID fights terrorist groups all across this world, making sure that we address the underlying causes for a retreat to terrorism. USAID chases China all around the world, making sure that China doesn't monopolize contracts for critical minerals and port infrastructure all around the world. It supports freedom fighters everywhere in this world. Up until yesterday, delivering firewood, for instance, to the brave Ukrainian defenders on the Eastern Front.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how they say the quiet stuff out loud about sending our money to all these other places, chasing China around. A lot of it wasn't. It was just crap. A lot of it was just rhetoric, empty rhetoric, like Ilhan Omar talking about gutting the Constitution. What? Nobody's gutting no Constitution. What are you talking about? And there you have it. They kind of just said the quiet stuff out loud. If you listen very closely, he said the money goes to freedom fighters around the world. That to me sounds like they're staging coups. They're staging coups. That's what they're doing, essentially, part of it. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up, I was thinking about back when the Democrats wanted to hire 80,000 IRS agents. And we all know what the IRS is for. That is for auditing the U.S. citizens, right? And nobody was mad about that. Nobody was mad about that. Except some, I believe some Republican maybe was mad about that. Maybe some citizens were mad about that. But overall, you didn't see Democrat representatives outside protesting against this. Nobody cared. It didn't seem like anybody cared. But now that Trump's in office and he has DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, being run by Elon Musk, who are working to audit the federal government, now all of a sudden you have all these Democrats and these uniparty types out here protesting. And that was just something I was thinking about, because that's weird. Why can you hire all these agents to tax us, but when we want to know where our tax money is going, everybody gets crazy? Well, everybody started acting funny. I just thought that was interesting. To me, if you ask me, I think they're stealing money. I think they're stealing money. Look, I'm looking at it like this. I heard this earlier today. Obviously, we pay taxes to the government, right? The government, who has our tax dollars, pays USAID. USAID takes our tax dollars and pays various NGOs and other organizations like that. And then when election season comes around for all these different representatives and these senators and even president, these NGOs donate to these certain campaigns, probably Democrat campaigns. Now, if you take everything I just said, basically what I'm saying is they are laundering money through USAID to the NGOs and back into the pockets of the politicians. This is the tax money from the government, USAID, NGO, back. It just goes back through the cycle. And the fact that they're not being transparent at all about where any of the money is going tells me that they are probably not using our tax money in the way that we would like. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you later. Peace.